Is it working? It is. Hello. It's a very unconventionally timed stream, so I do apologise. And there is junk everywhere in here, but that's okay. I was meant to do a stream last night, didn't happen, so I thought I'd just quickly do an unconventional stream this morning. And I've got things to pull apart and show what's been going on. So I hope. And the dog's awake. The dog can do that though because it's the daytime, but I might have to call him in. One moment. Come on. Come on. Yeah, go the long way. Come on. Come on. Here you come. Here you come. It is going to be a warm day here in Bumfudge. I don't know where the temperature is where you are, but here it's forecast to be about 35 degrees. There you go. Billy's here. Hello, Billy. Did you like your bed you got? We made you a bed, didn't we? You know what? Did you use it? No, you slept on the couch instead. There you go. That's the life of dogs, right? That's what they do. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm going to be all falling over. Oh, hello. I was looking for that. Not you. That one. 3D printer gubbins. It's kind of hard to know what to do with this stuff. You know, things get to a certain size and you can't keep them anymore, and there's certainly offcuts and bits and pieces. And I've only just got this other printer working, and oh my god, yeah, it's just a close up of my face. I'm going to point this down to the bench, and there you go. There's the bench. There's my phone. I'll move my phone out of the way. Let's get some things onto the bench to have a quick look at while I move junk out of the way. And I have, in my haste of getting the stream up, I have forgotten my list of recommended channels, which is really strange. But that's okay. I've got my phone there. I can look them up because I've been communicating with people. Oh, look. You can still see the glue. I need to sand that back. Let me get the first thing. Oh, here's another thing. One, two, three, another thing. Here we go. All right, I have a first thing. It's a stool. It's a wooden stool that Scott's Vac Shack made, and it was made from some plans and a 3D printed template of said side plans, because obviously it's two of those, a rectangle and or two of those and two rectangles put together. So that was made. Unfortunately, this was, I shouldn't say unfortunately, he's 8 and he had his first go with a circular saw and a jigsaw to do these. So, you know, they're close. They're pretty good. But obviously the template has hole guides for drilling through, and the plan was to actually make this template full size so you could actually use it as a depth guide, hopefully with some little inserts for a drill bit. But I think it was good. A piece down there, and he's opted to go for the unfinished look. And not by unfinished by incomplete, but I mean not stained or varnished, and there's still some pencil marks and stuff. He got to a stage where he was happy with it as it was. He can stand on it, it holds his weight, and he is super duper impressed because he got to use his tools that he got for Christmas. So I didn't have to use any of my fancy tools to get it done. Happy days. So I'm going to look for, and this is probably sounding a bit wanky, I'm going to look for a way to have a website where I can actually start putting things like this on there. So if anyone ever does want to download them as, you know, these PDFs or whatever of the step stool, they can. So I'll look into doing that in the near future. But then I wasn't satisfied just with that because he had too much fun making that. So then I decided I would have a go as well. Let me put that there and get the other one. So I decided to have a go at making one as well. Mine is a little bit longer, just because my feet are bigger. And if I stood on it, on something like that, my feet would be like that together. So I wanted to have my feet a little bit further apart so they could be braced by these. What else? I think it's pretty much the same construction, the same screw locations. I just put in 2 extra ones because this piece underneath is longer. I have routed, sanded, and lacquered mine. So mine's got spray lacquer on it. And it's not the best finish, but it's okay. And the piece I used, I suppose I was a little bit luckier because I could use my fancy tools. So mine follows contours a little bit closer. Not perfect, but still reasonably okay, or okayly reasonable. So happy days with that. I don't really know what I'm going to do with a tiny stool, but at least it was a proof of concept that I could make some plans, because I'd never done plans in Fusion 360 before. I could make some plans and put them out there for people to download and use, and you can make a pretty functional thing, which is highly inspired, copied from other similar basic step stools that I've seen online. Probably the difference being that most of them have got a little cutout there where you can put your hand in and carry it, but it's not really big as it is. And so this brace would be moved further down here. And maybe that's something I'd do, is I would measure my holes up from here next time, and then move that brace down. You can have a handle hold. But yeah, we used what we had. If we had to do a handle hold, then maybe he'd be using the drill press and stuff. And maybe he'll want to have a go at making a step stool or something with the fancy tools next time. But it was good to do something with father-son building from some plans that I'd made. And it actually turned out, which that's a rare occurrence. So I'll get those out of the way. So yesterday's challenge, and you can see it in the YouTube shorts, has to do with these wonderful things. These tools are, well, I'm seen as being a tool snob. I get that. I'm not deliberately a tool snob. I think it's just more how it's worked out. I don't try to be a tool snob, but there is something about tools that you can, I was saying yesterday, you can open the box and use it. There is no setting up required. And so for this yesterday in particular, we used Scott's Vac was given a set of Ferrex tools from his great grandpa, who has moved out of his house, doesn't need them anymore. And so we got these, and we thought, wouldn't it be good to make something out of them, out of scrap wood again, much like the step stool. And so we thought about making a dog bed out of pallet wood. So we tried to use this, a Ferrex branded jigsaw, a drill, and an impact driver, and we managed to use the other 3. The jigsaw is a bit flaky as well. This one in particular, though, had a significant problem. I don't know if you can really kind of see it. It's kind of hard to show. It probably won't become apparent on the camera, but the issue became apparent from here to here and here to here, especially when you are referencing off of a straight edge. That we had a brand new, I'll go get the thing to demonstrate what was going on. Where's the thing? There it is. Being a tool snob, and this lovely DeWalt square, and we were referencing against this square on a piece of wood and then going hard up against it while we cut. But the issue was we weren't getting straight cuts doing that, and couldn't figure out why. Was it that I was using this and this was slowly creeping out? Was it that it was slowly sort of moving away? And so what we actually ended up doing was clamping a straight edge to the other side of the saw as well. To the other, so we had one on this side and one on this side of the board, and sacrificial straight edge. When it fell off, that's fine. And so I can only sort of diagram the issue. I should have been more prepared for this. I should have been much more prepared, but I wasn't. So I'll just look at that. There's a page. Have we got a pencil or something? Probably not. Oh, this will do. Is that that's a pencil, an Aldi pencil. How appropriate. So we had our board that we were cutting. We had our very big straight edge, and here's our saw. And here was our other straight edge that I had that was not quite as big, but it was clamped on. So we had that clamped there, this clamped here, and our cut would be sort of through there. What we were finding, though, is that the cut sort of wound up looking a bit, if I sort of, the saw's see-through, the cut was doing this. No matter what we did, the cut was doing that, because the distance from this side of the blade was different from this side of the fence to that side of the blade. Now, that's grossly exaggerated. And so what you do, even though you're pushing through, the back half of the blade is sort of chomping out near the line, but the front half of the blade's running out. So you wound up with a skewed cut no matter what you did. And normally with a circular saw, you can look at the front of the blade and at least sort of pivot the saw to compensate for any sort of run out or some kind of bend or structural defect, for want of a better term, in the saw. But with this saw, you can't, because it's got this laser level thing here. So it's kind of, you can't really, it goes right the way down to just over here, and there's not really much room to look at it through there either. There's just not room to be able to get your face down right next to a spinning blade, which is not a great look anyway, and change that. So that became a really big problem, to the point that we stopped using it, because we were running out of wood, because every usable piece that we needed to cut to a certain size was getting ruined because we couldn't get a straight edge on it. And we didn't want to resort to, cheating and using the other tools that are probably a better setup. So we just didn't, and of course the other thing is, putting your face down near a laser line is a really stupid idea. Like, it's just not a good thought process, especially if I'm the one there trying to help, and my 8-year-old son is there, and he thinks, well, Dad's doing that, so it must be safe to do, and it must be okay, and it clearly isn't. So we didn't use that. This is, the blade on it's okay. The blade makes okay cuts, but it just doesn't cut straight. There's nothing I can do about it, because this assembly is riveted. So there's nothing I can do about that. This is riveted on. There's no adjustment side to side. Funnily enough, this piece on my saw, this one is bent, and so but it could be just the plastic housing isn't too good. But the look, you can see that the saw blade itself isn't pivoted very nicely, but we were messing around with it trying to angle it correctly yesterday. So there's all kinds of things that need adjusting. But yeah, it's just not a very good saw. I'm not. I don't want to be I don't want to be a saw, or a tool snob, which I know I'm already seen as being a tool snob because I buy DeWalt tools. But I buy DeWalt tools basically because you can open the box and use it without any repercussions, really. And in fact, even if I go get my DeWalt one, I'll show you the problem with that. And it still cuts better than that one. Oh, Bill, it's sad. I won't let you out the farm. This is the problem with my DeWalt one. If I lower it down, you can see this lovely bend, because this saw has been run over by a car. In fact, I was driving the car. I was doing some stuff, making a raised garden bed at our old house, and I needed to go out and buy some sleepers, and I just sort of chucked tools out of the way and went to go and drive off, and I ran over this. So there's no blade in it right now. Even though this has been run over, still cuts straighter than the Aldi. So there's that. And of course, it's been run over and it still works. But buying this piece is more expensive than buying a new saw. So I just use it, and I don't adjust it past here for when we're doing things. So I can't cut full depth on it, but I used to use this for basically, cutting MDF and things like that. And it works okay. There was no big issue with it. So that's why I still have it and I still use it. So the dramas of the saws. It was a very interesting problem yesterday. But I'm also aware of, the bad tradesperson blames their tools. Well, I'm not a tradesperson, so that means I'm allowed to blame them, right? And they only blame their tools, I think, when there are no other explanations. And I'm the first person to call my skills into question when doing things like that. And because there was no other option, it just had to either be that there was a problem with the saw or there was a problem with the wood, because we took out everything that could have gone, that could have been a user-created problem. Very strange. And of course, the issue being Aldi tools is that, what do? You can return it to Aldi and get your money back if you've managed to keep the receipt, which I'm not very good at doing. I've got an Aldi tumble dryer that's broken and I can't return it. I don't have the receipt. It's definitely within the warranty period because the store hasn't been in bumfudge for as long as the warranty. But unless you have your receipt, you've got nothing. So keep your receipts, kids. The ACCC have got an app, apparently. You should try that. But yeah, what do? Because you could return it and sure, you'll get your money back, but then you don't have a saw. Or you can go and return it and then buy a saw of a different brand, but then you don't have that platform compatibility. So that's the rant for Aldi tools, but that's what happens when you buy them. So here we go. This is the hot end from my 3D printer, from my big 3D printer, and I have once again replaced it. This is maybe the 5th hot end for a cheap 3D printer. That's not very good innings. The fan was very noisy on it. So what I'd like to do is try and take it apart and see, because I'm not going to put it back on, but just see what it was that was causing all the issue, because maybe there's something I can look into for later on. So I'm going to get some tools, which I can find over here. Can I? Oh, I have, yes, I've got some. I have some tools. And what hath gone wrong with it? I think I don't know whether you can see that looking inside there. There is quite a lot of muck in there. I used to use hairspray to hold prints down, and I can see quite a few wisps of filament and dust and things like that, and probably hairspray and whatnot as well. So we will see. I'll take the fans off anyway and see what we can find out. This is my very, very nice Amazon ripoff of an iFixit toolkit. And I will probably need something like maybe maybe a 1.5 or maybe a 2mm bit. Let's have a look. 2. Looks like the 2mm bit is it. But it works all right. I can't afford an iFixit toolkit. I wish I could, but at the moment, and hey, because I'm a tool snob apparently, but it doesn't really do anything for me that this doesn't do already, you know. Hello, Billy. Billy wants a fuss. He's not happy that I'm talking on to myself. Yeah, you're a good dog. I'll try and do this one-handed so that Billy still gets a fuss. No, I have to hold it. I have to hold it, mate. I can't help it. Yeah. So I can see straight away there's a lot of this kind of this gear, which is hard to see. Have we got anything dark that I can sort of put it on? I'll move this, sort of start to see the and that doesn't seem like much, but it, you know, if it's stopping this little fan from spinning, and there's a lot more in there. I mean, there's plenty on it. There's a bit more. And even when you, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but when you look behind the fan, there is quite a lot of gunk. There's just lots and lots of junk in it. Oh, Billy, I know, you're a good boy. Good dog, Bill. Good dog. So plenty of, oh, Bill, what is it? What is it? Sorry, the dog wants more attention. I'm not paying the dog enough attention. So this is a Creality 12-volt fan at 12 volts at 100 milliamp, a sleeve bearing. But even when I look down in here, there's a sort of, can I get some tweezers or something? Maybe. If I look down just behind here, there is a lot of junk in there. A lot of dried up bits of filament, dust, hairspray, and it's just kind of made the perfect storm for this thing. You know, lots of bits attached here. It would take a lot of scrubbing, and then even behind there on the inside of the casing, lots and lots of stuff. So I'd say that fan is, I'd probably cut that off and put a new fan on it. To be fair, I wonder what the part cooling fan is like. It'd be very interesting. This is that's an axial fan. This is they call it a radial fan. Axial because the air goes in and out on one axis. And of course that isn't the right size. It's too big. Maybe this. That's the one. So a 2 and a 1.5. I guess to be able to tell them apart. I do have some other cooling fans to try though. So that might be worth looking into. Although for printing, different filaments require different amounts of cooling. And I do have some ducting stuff that I'd like to try. Because I've now converted to an all metal hot end on the big printer. But yeah, I think it's just in a dusty environment as well. The shed obviously is much dustier than the house. I don't always remember to shut the door in here, and even when I do, well, it's a shed, it gets dusty. Quite clean there. The housing itself, well, that's a salvageable part. We'll hold on to that. Cooling fan's probably okay. Cooling duct. Oh, there's some dust in there. That's not bad. Have a look inside the fan though. It's a very, very noisy little fan. There's plenty of dust in there. Yeah. And that and the heater cartridge is probably okay. But again, this was suffering from terrible terrible blockages. It would get blocked very, very easily. The nozzle would get blocked. Oh, hang on, then there's that one, which is, I'm sure that's a 2 mil. Of course it is. Everything's a 1.5 or a 2 mil. And you just get the whole hot end covered in molten filament, which is a bit of a pain. It's not the nicest thing to try and deal with. And the so basically it's this part, this heat block, there's a piece of this plastic tube goes right the way down and sits on the back of the nozzle. In fact, you can see on this piece that's exactly where that's at. So it sits on the back of the nozzle like that. But then as the block heats up due to this heating cartridge, which is, I think this is part of the couple here, the thermocouple, this heats up to 260, 270 degrees to get the nozzle extruding at about 240. Different metals, different rates. You've got this aluminium heat sink that's meant to be dragging the heat away, and basically it drags the heat away because the filament goes through this tube, which goes through this block. It sits down on top of the nozzle, and then you don't want the filament melting up here. You want it melting down here in the nozzle. The issue is though that the filament heats up in the nozzle, and because there's never a perfect seal against this tube, it starts to blob up. And then when it starts to blow up, it starts to push the tube out very slightly. And because it's pushing the tube out, and there's a big blob of molten filament in there, when the motor tries to push the filament through to 3D print something, it doesn't come through all the way. So only some of it passes out. So you get this under extruded, sort of wispy, not very well printed, not very solid object. And and so eventually, because it happens in such tiny increments that you kind of go, oh yeah, you don't really realize things are under extruded until you notice that they're badly under extruded. And by that stage, this heat block is now full of plastic. When you take the nozzle off, that's full of molten plastic. And you basically have to see, look, this is the molten plastic in the end of the tube. You've got to cut that off, start again, new nozzle, probably a new heater block as well, unless you can clean it out. I don't have a lot of solvents and things like that. I've seen people put these in a vise and heat them up with a blowtorch and whatnot. You can still see this filament stuck to it from doing the Makita stuff. It's just, but this part is, a $1 part. Do you bother keep doing it? And so often for me, the solution is no, I won't keep doing this. I'll just scrap that part, scrap the nozzle, and go again. Shorter piece of PTFE tube. And so then you can see on the bench top, how many times have I had to do it? Well, there's lots of these little offcuts and things laying around. And there's, this, I tried this kind of tube. This is the kind that came with the printer. And because this whole assembly with the heater cartridge, the cooling block, the nozzle, the heater block, the heater cartridge, the thermistor, the fans, all comes as one kit for about $30. Sometimes it just makes sense to say, I'll swap everything. I don't have fans that are covered in junk that don't spin at the rate they're supposed to. I've got things that are all brand new together. And then you can buy things like this little kit here. So this is a Micro Swiss all metal hot end, and it basically replaces this part of the kit. It has a titanium heat break, a hardened steel nozzle. I think this is a titanium cooling heating block as well, and it's all in one piece, and it doesn't rely as much on this PTFE tubing. So basically, because this block is so good at wicking away the heat and it's machined to such fine tolerances, you don't need to worry about the seal on the end of the tube. The tube only goes into about there and it gets locked in, and then the rest of it is just a clean filament path, which is fine. It works out well until they don't work. And when they don't work, there is very, very little you can do to recover it that I found. But then again, that's just me. I tried to repair this one. It worked for a little while. Then it stopped working. So it's kind of at the stage now of, well, I'll rescue what I can from it, and the rest is just going to go in the bin. You can see there's quite a lot of scratching in here from where I've tried to wire brush, and there's, you know, filament stuck in there, bits and pieces down there. Can I get this off? Will this one come off? Yep. Oh, it's glued on. Oh, there we go. It's probably half glued in with filament because the threads, there you go. So you can see it just down there, where the tube has sat on there. The threads are actually quite clean, but the filament kept breaking, and you can see that's just full of molten filament, which is not a good thing. You know, can't get down past there. So that's junk. Down here, again, you can see there's filament up there, so it's been leaking out past the end of the tube. Sorry, it's down in there. It's been leaking out past the end of the tube. That surface should be nice and clean. I can see some blue PLA. You can see where it's actually burnt on up here. A bit of a clean up with the wire brush, it'll probably be okay. But if I dismantled this, it would probably only ever go back on the little printer. And I'm going to try and keep the big printer with the all metal hot end just because it's enclosed. So yeah, that's the fun. What else? Z-bends. I'm trying to do Z-bends on a throttle cable. Can I go get the throttle cable? Should I get the throttle cable? I'll go get it. Because maybe somewhere out there that's watching this will have had and solved this problem. One moment. Now I'm going to have to move all this junk out of the way, aren't I? I'm very sorry to be talking deeply into the camera. This is the throttle cable from Barry the mower. If you've been watching and you've seen Barry, and Barry the mower has this issue where you can turn the throttle off, but you can't turn it on because the sheathing doesn't really move. The cable just sort of pushes everything out, so you can't it doesn't slide freely within the sheathing. So we put a new eBay throttle cable on and went to try it, and as soon as we go to advance and, you know, turn on the throttle, it just pushes the sheathing out, not the cable. It pushes everything out, and then it doesn't really work. So I don't know if there's something to do with crimping and clamping this back in the housing so that this is held firm and the cable can move, or whether it's just the market buying cheap, crappy eBay housings. This is the original Briggs & Stratton one, so I would hope that this one is probably better made. I can see the cable moving, but then again, it's just the whole thing moves. And because it does that, that movement isn't translated to You can see it's not translated to the end there. It's just, this isn't moving at all. It's really tight to move it. So I've been trying to do Z bends, but I'm not very good at Z bends. They are a bit of a bastard, in my opinion. So if anyone has got any helpful hints about, oh, there you go, it probably pops out like there. I've 3D printed a thing that's meant to do Z bends, but now they're talking about getting a Dremel and cutting down bolts and stuff like that. And I just wanted a tool that did it, but never mind. So I've got another throttle control, but of course I don't want to do the same thing to that one that I did to the cheap eBay one, which is that this bit has become dislodged and it just does that, and it doesn't actually, and I know that this, the sheathing is meant to be like clamped down to the side of the mower, but it doesn't seem to translate to that movement still. So I'm at a bit of a loss. I'm, shove it back in there and nope, out it comes again. There's got to be some kind of crimping type, clamping, holding oning, mechanisming thing in there, but I'm just not aware of what it is. Ow! I just hit myself in the face with that. There's a highlight for the stream. Hello, Nina. I hope you are well. I'm not sure where you are, Nina, but I hope that things are going swimmingly for you. And Nina, if you're watching and it's live, just make sure that the little play button thing is red and showing that it's live and that you're right up to date with the stream, because otherwise you might be hearing this in 10 minutes time. Who knows? Yeah, it's Barry the Mower has been very popular on this channel and on Scott's Vac Shack. So I'm hoping to do some Barry t-shirts. That'd be nice. I think Scott would like that too. He's a big fan of Barry, so that's I can't mow the lawn at the moment with my stuff. I have to wait for Scott to want to do it with Barry. And when I mow the lawn, he is quite upset if I haven't got him to use Barry to do it. So that's the fun of the way the workshop is at the moment. What else? You know what? I modeled Greg the stop sign, and I forgot to put a hole in it to screw it to the wall. So I'm just going to drill a hole and put it up. So fun stuff. So there's yellow PETG filament in the big printer now. And where's my Z? This is my Z bending tool, but there's no sort of explanation for how it works. It's the screws and stuff like that. So I guess you put a screw in, and then I'm guessing this arm has to somehow move. So there's got to be something to pivot. But I'm not do you put something in and it pivots one way and then you put it around the other way and it pivots the other way? Maybe. That's kind of all I can think that you would do. I'm guessing it needs a bolt, probably like an M5 or an M6, and probably quite long by the look of it. Oh, it's got a recess at the back there. Yeah. Have I got an M5 bolt? I don't know. Questions that you didn't know that I didn't know the answers to. And I think I've got them around the right way. Let me see if I have an M5 bolt. Hi. Wow. Oh, hang on. I now have to get out my Instagram to remember the pronunciation. Goodness me. Hold on. I was not expecting to have so many people. It's usually just, my mum. And I'll just say from beautiful New South Wales, Uja Garpivi. And I've just watched your video about your steps, and I really enjoyed it. I think they look amazing. I think you've done it. I was kind of wondering what you were doing with the oxides, and I suppose I'd call them the oxides and the coloration, but it looks great. I'm really happy. I don't have any. My garden's quite flat, apart from sort of undulations from where we've had heavy equipment moving earth and stuff like that. Nina's in Germany. Oh, thank you, Nina. Yeah, I'm doing well. And Billy is Billy the poodle is just sleeping by the door of the shed now. He's kind of given up wanting to interrupt proceedings. Wow, there you go. I don't think I've ever been broadcast that far before, and I'm trying to learn German in Duolingo, but I can't really I can't say too much. I could say Entschuldigung, I could say excuse me, and I can say some numbers, and I know how to say an owl. I don't know why Duolingo. Well, I guess because the little the guy's an owl, isn't it? But the Euler, very cool. I'm chuffed with that. Chuffed is Australian for really impressed. So thanks very much. Oh, yes, and before I move on, I should always make sure to say and plug Language Learning for Beginners as a great resource if you're into Duolingo, yeah, please go to Language Learning for Beginners and watch some interesting takes, because Mrs. Jimmy Bav is, and I only say that to protect her name, not because I think that she's like my property or anything, but she is studying, I think it's 36, I could get corrected, 36 different languages on Duolingo, and she's been doing Duolingo for like 12 years or something, so since its inception, I think. So yeah, well done. There's like real chat bubbling along. It's amazing. Let me get well, I was going to say, I'm going to say, if you do not currently, if you're into sort of, I guess the plight of the teacher as well, but also some really cool sort of making, home DIY type stuff, I would say go to, and I'll say it out loud. I'll spell it out: OOJAGAPIVY, Ujagapivy, on YouTube, and have a look at his channel. It's actually become one of my go-tos, and I really enjoy it. Seeing when a new video comes out, just because it's usually, I like to think about those Friday morning type things, and it's been a very difficult week for me trying to learn CAD with my year 10 class, who I really think possibly know that I don't know a lot about CAD, but I'm trying my best. Billy, come on. Billy really wants to go and bark at the neighbors. Shall we do Billy Cam? Let's do Billy Cam. There's Billy. Oh, hello, Bill. Are you a good boy? Have you been good? Are you barking at the neighbors? Yeah. You're a good dog. So there we go. Billy Cam. Good boy. Yeah, that's not enough, is it? No. Where's your bed? Are you going to lie on your bed and actually enjoy it? We'll move your bed back out to the workshop. We have to get Scott into... we're using... I've had a background in Tinkercad, which I did when I was in primary school. I got my students to do Tinkercad. And work uses Autodesk Inventor. Autodesk Inventor 2021, and some of those tools are transferable, but I don't have a PC that I use day to day. I've got a MacBook, and I'm because I'm clearly a snob. No, it's just that I bought a Mac years ago. I switched, and it just works. Anyway, enough about computers and politics and whatnot. But there's no Autodesk Inventor Pro for the Mac. There's Fusion 360. So then I've been learning stuff in Inventor, particularly about like constraining, mating, and flushing. The year 10s are making boxes. So every weekend I've been making boxes in my workshop. But then trying to get, like, when you've got mitered corners, to get like the inside joint to flush and then the outside joint to flush without it twisting around like that. And it's yeah. Well, I work in a non-government school, so I'm not sure that we do. we've got a license with Autodesk. But I've been trying to say that maybe we should look at something like Onshape or something like that. But I know there's another one. My niece was using it, and she told me about it, and she went to a government school, and I can't think of the name of it. But yeah. What's the name of the thing, Billy? What is it? What's the name? You want me to struggle to remember the name so I can keep patting you? You poor old boy, you. SolidWorks. I think she talked about using SolidWorks. Yeah, I tried SketchUp years and years ago before I even knew what I was doing in CAD. I should go back to it because I think I would probably understand it now. I think sometimes when you do things for the first time and you just want the result, you don't want to learn how things work. You kind of shortcut the process, and it doesn't work very well. Oh, look, Billy. Nina says you're clever. Are you clever? Are you clever? You might be. Can you sit? Can you sit? Can you sit down? Oh, there you go. You can do one thing. You can do that. Oh, you can shake. You shake? Where's your paw? Can you? No, don't want to do shake. You want to do pats. You kind of know that if you just put your head there, I'll pat you because I do that. But yeah, I like Fusion 360. There's a lot of free tools. And like I say, my plans that I did for my steps tool were all done in Fusion 360 using my skills from Onshape, because at my school, all the tech students have to build their project in CAD before they can start cutting wood. I haven't decided the program. I also don't really have time to rewrite it. The guy I share an office with who's been really helpful is the person that's written it, and I just started working there and said, okay, I'll go with what you've done. So the year 8s make a tray. They make a serving tray as their program. It's only a 1 semester subject. The year 9s have a choice of doing they do a Lazy Susan first semester and a bookcase second semester. The year 10s do something box related, because then it's kind of more the different styles of joinery that you'd use. And we don't have lathes and things like that. We have a lathe that really doesn't get used unless somebody wants to turn legs for something. What else? Everything that we do can have laser cut designs in it as some kind of embellishment. We've also got a Carvey, so it can have some kind of CNC stuff done as well. But that's probably for some of the more advanced people. And I'm not really, I'm up to, find an image on Google, make sure it's got a clear background and import it to Lightburn. That's pretty much as far as my stuff goes. I'll grab the tray. I've got a tray because I made one last year when I had to show kids how to make it. So I was really hoping that I was just making trays this year. Where's the tray? Here's the tray. Here we go. I've got the tray. So this is the serving tray that students make. So they have to produce this in Autodesk first. Basically, they've got to produce the handle, the side rail, the base, and the base rail, and then actually assemble it. I had used it since about 2008. Okay, I'll have a look. Thanks, mate. So this is currently waiting for a few extra coats of... I made this with all the rejected pieces and the demonstration pieces and stuff. So, nobody wanted this base because it had that cool gnarly crack there. And I think it adds to its rustic charm. But everything's jigged so that students that have never done woodwork before get a chance to produce something, but it's kind of all well guided. So all the routers, all the hand routing, it's done with a router table, but there is a jig that protects students' hand and clamps the workpiece to the fence. So all you're basically doing is holding onto the jig and walking it across the table. Take it out the other side, flip it over, do it again. Lots and lots of hand sanding, raising the grain. Bandsaw work for radiusing the corners. drill press and jigsaw for the handle. Disc sander, obviously, for smoothing things out before you route them over. The routing for inside the handle is done with a jig that clamps over the top of the piece, and it's got two handles, and you sort of go anti-clockwise with it for the inside of the router bit, and then you've got to stop the machine, take it out, flip it over, do it again. And then if these aren't lined up, you have to get a big rasp and try and sort of eat away at it until it's flat and go again. So it's yeah, they're not bad. Oh, of course, and a bit of battery drill, hammer and nails for attaching things, and yeah. And then they can have laser cut designs on the side rail and on the handles. So, they'll often have their favorite football teams or their mum's name, grandma's name, for that. And then it's a nice little thing. So I keep that in my shed because I keep promising that I'll blow all the dust off it and put the last coat of lacquer on it, but I've never got around to it. Anyway. So in other news, as you would have seen in previous videos, the Azito router absolutely pooed itself. So this has been my go-to router. I think years ago they were MacTech. It was the oh my goodness, Nina, good night. I bid you good night as well. Good Nacht. That was cool. This has been my go-to because the Azito router in the router table was pretty terrible, just with being a plunge router, and it had no method of adjusting the height apart from getting one hand on top of the table, one hand underneath the table, trying to loosen the plunge mechanism and shoving the two together and hoping you got it at the right height. That wasn't brilliant. So I've been using this. This is the cheapy Makita M3700. I think it's now the MT3700, and it's now blue with a black end on it. This is the cheapy trim router one. My Azito broke because the locking mechanism for changing the bit basically rounded out inside the housing with a nice bit stuck in it. So I had to disassemble the router around it, and having no Bunnings here, there's no way I can go and get the piece that I need for it. So I just left it as is. So what I'm planning to do with this, because it's a nice simple mechanism for changing the bit, is I want to make a table that attaches to my little DeWalt job site table saw. So I can mount this up and under, and then height adjustment is very easy via this thumb screw and just moving it to a desired height. And I'll use some 3D printing to make some small blocks, some extrusions that will go in the end of the aluminium rails on the table saw slides, so I can slide in my router table, put my router in, and then do whatever table routing I need to. Probably won't need a fence on it, but I might include a fence and a little dust extraction port because it'll be some good 3D printing practice. And yeah, and use that. And then I've been eyeing off a DeWalt router to use as an actual router, and there's a really nice one. Because I've got DeWalt tools, it makes sense to buy into the platform when the opportunity presents itself, because I don't like having 25 different chargers. There's no point. I used to have DeWalt chargers and Bosch chargers and Hitachi chargers, and my shed was full of just chargers and nowhere to store the tools. So now I've really limited myself that I've got Azito stuff from Bunnings when we do visit a Bunnings that basically does the garden. So plenty of Azito batteries for that. And then when I'm buying tools for myself, I'm either buying a corded tool or I'm buying a DeWalt tool, just because I have the batteries. There's no point. So there's a nice DeWalt router that takes the batteries I have, and it's got a plunge base and a fixed base on it. And the height adjustment on that is amazing. It's got two rings and it's sort of a screw motion. So you've got coarse adjustment on one, fine adjustment on the other. And then even with a plunge base, it's actually got, instead of a lever for the plunge, you twist the knob and it lowers or raises itself, which is, again, very handy. There's a locking lever to lock the plunge where you need it, but the height adjustment is just so much better, so I'm going to go with that. Yeah, I had a lot of Bosch stuff. I didn't mind Bosch, but I live in a little town. I'll say little. It's not little by Australian little town standards, okay? It is certainly, we call ourselves a city. We're about 25,000 people. There are now only 2 hardware shops that sell tools, and they're owned by the same person. One sells Makita, which is fine. I don't have anything against Makita, but when I bought a drill doing a kitchen renovation years ago, and it was a DeWalt because it was a good deal. And then when I went to buy other tools, I thought, well, you may as well just keep with the same batteries. We have a Mitre 10, the other hardware store, and we have what they call a Bianco hardware, which is like a trade type store. And the trade, I'll just move the, oh God, I hate putting the camera on myself, but I'm going to move it up. Okay. So, hello, Billy. Oh, that didn't work. So the trade type hardware store is basically, they sell Makita, including the 40 volt stuff, Milwaukee, DeWalt. That's it. And then all the bits associated with them. They've got lots of Milwaukee, lots of Makita, a little bit of DeWalt, not too much. But that's, that's, I suppose, my fanboy attitude coming through there. Then the other store sells Makita, mainly the cheap stuff, like the cheapy MT brand stuff. None of the 40 volt gear, a very sort of basic range of Makita cordless stuff. And then they sell Rockwell. Yeah, that's what Scott's got, and that's what he built his workbench and his stool with. And Stanley. They've kind of, Stanley's like they're cheap. It looks like DeWalt until you look at it and go, oh, it's Stanley. But the battery pins are like one out on the chargers and that kind of stuff. But anyway, badge engineering, right, at its best. And they used to sell Bosch, now they don't. We have a Stratco that used to sell Bosch and Makita and stuff, and now they don't sell anything. They don't sell any tools at all. They're just sort of hardware. They don't have any power tools anyway. So there's kind of nowhere to go there. I'll move back. So I'm kind of stuck. I've invested into a battery platform. I've got loads of them around. I think I've even got, no, wrong drawer. Hold on. They're literally everywhere in here because these little 12 volt ones are great. And they charge on the same charger as the big 18s. That's the other reason I like them. So I bought heavily when I wanted to get battery garden tools. But I won Bosch stuff in a competition. It was great. I loved it. But then my brother wanted some tools, and I had all these tools that I was trying to just consolidate to one thing. So I just said, here you go, please have all my Bosch tools. And And the Bosch router I've got has only got a metric collet. Now, I don't understand about collet. Maybe you can tell me. But it seems like either the Bosch has decided to have metric collets and you need metric bits to go in it. And there is no such thing as a 8mm to 6.35mm collet adapter because it's just too small a dimension to make up. And I don't think I'd want to, go down the route that people are saying of just wrap it in electrical tape and stick it in there. That would be bad. So I just wanted things that are readily available and easy. And, unfortunately, if you buy what America uses, you get a great variety of stuff. You'd probably know that like AEG here is rigid in America. So again, available from Bunnings. We don't have a Bunnings here. We're getting a Bunnings in the next town by the end of this year. So I'll be spending a lot of time going to that Bunnings, I think, most weekends. Honey, we're going to spend a lot of time in the next town after, I think it's November it opens, if things go according to plan. So there we go. Let me get my list of channels here because I've already mentioned a couple of them, but there was another few that I did want to mention before I knock off. Now, I don't think there's a Measure Twice, Cut Once this week. I think it is next week, but you should have a look at that if you are not already. Oh, that's right. There is Wouldn't It Be Grand? I really enjoyed Wouldn't It Be Grand, especially I think that's the one that he made for the palette. I thought I was doing all right with my palette challenge where I took a coffee table and turned it into a palette and then into a coffee table again, but a different coffee table. He took palette wood and turned it into an arcade cabinet. That was amazing. So go and check that out. Wouldn't It Be Grand? And I like it when there's a pun in your title. That's pretty good. I think I mentioned Saw It the other week. What was the other one? There was one more. I'm trying to think what it was. Was it that one? It could be. I think it was. Where's it gone? No, I think I mentioned Macon Sawdust before. I know I mentioned Riverside Woodworks. I know I mentioned Fazio Electric, but I'll mention them again anyway. I think what I try and find people that make things that are not very good at what they're making. Well, they're not up themselves about what they're making, because I'm the first person to question my own skills here. But somebody put me on, I think it might be Aussie Matt, put me onto a channel. If you like this sort of unboxing random stuff, and I don't have anything to unbox this week, Unboxing Hands is a nice one that involves opening junk, usually from eBay or AliExpress, and drinking beer while doing it. So they're my recommendations. Of course, with language learning for beginners as well. If you like languages and you like learning and you're a beginner, that sounds like that's the channel for you. But I think if you want, give me a shout out in the messages, and I can send you a measurement banana. That's the ideal accompaniment for the tech studies teacher needing a measurement banana. And I might even make another run on the thwacker if you would like a 3D printed mallet. I might be able to help you out there. This one has done a bit of work, but I've now got the printer going again that I might make some more 3D printed mallets. So if you would like a thwacker or a metric calibration banana, measurement banana, give me a shout out in the messages, or Instagram as well. I'm on there, and we'll leave it there. But it's just over an hour. The dog is looking very wistfully at the shed door. I've had to lock him in because otherwise he'll bark at the neighbours, and that's why we had to move last time. And now my mum's phoning me. So I will take that as an opportunity to say goodbye to everyone, and always keep your bananas where you can see them. See you later. Hello.